comic book junkies, it's the Frog Queen here, and today I'm bringing you an interview with FAREL DALRYMPLE, who is one of my favorite creators to talk to. I find his process so interesting. FAREL, of course, is most well known for his work on Profit with Image Comics, the magazine Island, miniseries It Will All Hurt, his OGN The Wrenchies, and Popgun Wars. Today we're talking about all his past work, as well as his current project, Prxima Centuri, which you can actually check out on Study Group online. The link is in the description below. So let's jump into the interview.
Apartment. It's like a room dedicated to tables with half-finished projects and things like that.
Sweet. Is that what's up on the wall? Is that Proxima behind you?
Oh yeah, this is like the issue I'm working on now. It's kind of like my method of putting them. I don't know. Just helps me organize stuff, I guess. Just laying all the pages out in a row.
That's so cool. I've never seen anybody do that before, except for like a couple manga artists.
Oh, interesting. I've had a couple of friends do something similar where we had like a string or something and clip everything to the pages to a string, so they're kind of like hanging above their heads. But I kind of like having them all flat on a big surface. I can just kind of scan through and make sure everything's flowing okay.
Nice. No, that makes sense. I guess, I mean, I always appreciate people who work on paper. I do end up interviewing quite a few people who do solely digital, so they never touch paper. And I'm always like, oh, it would drive me insane to like constantly have to open up files and look at pages, you know, to get the whole picture rather than seeing it right in front of you, like the way you've got it. But yeah, sorry, I ramble a lot about process.
No, that's all right. I'm always reinventing my method and changing things up project to project. I mean, it was kind of hard when I was like working on the wrenchies to do something like this, but I would usually do like 10 pages at a time or something.
Just because it's so huge.
I'm doing this as issues. It's a little easier for me just to do. Okay, it's like one chunk, like 24 pages that I can lay all out.
So is this the first issue of Proxima? Like, I've been trying to follow it on social media.
Okay. Well, I have the first issue mostly up on Study Group. I've been releasing Study Group Comics. It's like a website that I sent you a link to it.
Yeah.
With the whole first issue of it up there. So.
Oh, it's the entire.
I didn't realize it.
I didn't realize it was the entire first issue because I wasn't sure how long like the first issue was. I've read it, but I wasn't sure like.
No, well, it's being released. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's being released on there like a page every week. So I think right now, I don't know exactly what page it's on, like 17 or 18 or something like that. And the first issue is a little longer. I think the first issue is 32 pages. But I have the first 4 issues done. And I'm going to do 6 issues. Release it as issues.
Cool. Is it technically, like, I was a little bit confused, but is it going to be like the third sequel to the Popgun Wars? Because Proxima is mentioned in The Gift.
No, I think I mentioned it in Chain Letter.
In
the last scene? That was like the second Popgun War book. But it's kind of like sort of like an unofficial, not a sequel, but a follow-up to the Wrenchies book I did and came out in 2014. It has the main character in the Wrenchies, who's not necessarily featured throughout the book, but the book's really about him. Sherwood Redcoat. It's a story about him as like a teenager. It's like maybe like 3 years of his life on board this like space station-y type dimensional vortex place, or like more of like a hub or a nexus or something rather than a vortex. But it's so there's like this big it's like a Jupiter-sized space station, like Dyson sphere type thing. where there's like all these little dimensional gateways and all this stuff on it. This is doesn't I don't lay all this out exactly like this in any of my stories, but this is like the idea I have behind it. So I can kind of do whatever I want on this. Like this is like sort of like the science fiction-y part of my universe. You know, I can tell like you know, laser guns and spaceship stories that has anything to do with being on this in this like big area. And Sherwood's kind of trapped in one small part of it. It's sort of like the size of the city, but space and time are a little flexible and organic in this, you know, basically in all my stuff.
Yeah.
But this was just the setting of this is specifically like, okay, this is like my science fiction fantasy world. Whereas like the Wrenchies kind of, it took place mostly in like a post-apocalyptic psychedelic kind of world.
Right.
And same with It Will Hurt, kind of like in that same world, but there's also like crossover between all of it. And Popgun War, I gotta has more of a, I don't want to say real world setting, but it has, it's a little more grounded, I guess. I mean, it's still like fantasy, whimsical kind of stuff, but it's more of like a, you know, kind of a gritty urban environment.
Yeah. I mean, when I first read, sorry, I'm getting confused in my head. A Gift came first, then it was Chain Letter, right?
Right.
Okay,
right.
I get them flipped around in my head sometimes.
Okay. Chain Letter is like kind of weird because it's, I guess all my stories end up kind of doing this for the most part. But Gift, first one, Popgun War Gift, it was like, I originally did like 5 issues, but it was all pretty much in sort of like a fictionalized New York City kind of setting. Like I never really say what it is, I just call it the city, but it was sort of based off like me living in New York and looking at the architecture there. The sequel to it, Chain Letter, it has stories that take place in the past, in the present, and the future. So, you know, through the eyes of this girl watching these video monitors. So each section has a different look to it and a different color scheme, that kind of thing. And the last part that takes place in the future is actually on board Prxima Centuri.
Right.
But I don't know if I think I might actually say that that's where they are.
Yeah,
but they're not necessarily in the same exact spot that Sherwood's trapped in.
Yes, yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, so the one you're working on now must follow that, but it doesn't really, as you said. It's its own separate book. It kind of ties into the Wrenchies, which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
It's there's a lot of the same characters from the Wrenchies, and I reference that book a lot in the story.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. Are you going to be, so you're putting them out as 6 separate issues. Are they with Image?
Well, yeah, this is the part I was saying I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh,
Publishers
I'm sorry,
and stuff now. So, it hasn't been like officially announced or anything.
Oh, okay.
So, so we'll just pretend that is not a thing and say that, you know, I've been doing it as a webcomic basically.
Yes.
So it's on Study Group Comics for right now. And I don't have like a release date yet or anything of when I'm going to put it out as like actual physical issues. Right now, I'm just trying to get the 6 issues finished. Hopefully in the next couple months, I'll have it done. Seems like it's going a little slower the closer I'm getting to the end, which seems kind of the opposite the way it usually happens for me. So yeah, it's hopefully, I think February I can say who's publishing it and all that stuff. So
sweet. That's not very far.
No, yeah, it's pretty close, but I don't know. They had me sign I've never done this before. They had me sign like an NDA.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I wasn't exactly sure what to do about it because it's not like really anyone notices this kind of stuff. But in my estimation, anyway, I don't know if anyone is even like reading the webcomic or is even aware that I'm doing it.
Oh, I know that people are.
Oh, cool.
Because I've had discussions with different people online about it, so I know people are reading it.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. I don't know if anyone, any potential publisher, like paper publishers, are aware of it. Which is fine. There's so much stuff coming out all the time. Like, there's tons of web comics that are like super popular that I've never heard of or I'm not even aware of at all. So
It's so saturated with webcomic world. It's crazy.
well, not just that. I feel like in this, these modern times that everyone can sort of just make their own audience, and there's people that might read a certain specific webcomic or a comic or whatever series that aren't aware of any other type of comic, or that other comics even exist, or maybe they have an idea that other comics exist, but they're not specifically don't know,
Right. Huh.
I just going to shows and stuff. Like, sometimes I'll it'll be at a show like like VanCaf. Typically, there's been a lot of like web cartoonists that will go to that show, and I'll see someone that'll have like a line out the door, and it's just like, whoa, I've never even heard that comic before, but like they're obviously really popular and have this like big audience for it. I'm not aware of it.
But you're actually like you're a pretty big reader. Like, I always see you posting about other people's comics. Actually, you posted one the other day that now I'm like dying to read.
It's Stages of Rot.
Stages of Rot, yeah.
Yeah, I got that right here.
I need to get that book.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That was beautiful. And then I started like flipping through it online and being like, oh, I gotta order this.
Yeah, I love these. I love everything about this book. I like the sparse dialogue and the color palette, and just her drawings are really wonderful. But yeah, I picked this up at Floating World, and I got an new Aiden Coke book that's really good.
Oh, nice.
I got like the stack here. Expansion just came out. I did a little drawing for it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see your drawing for it, I don't think.
It's in there.
I haven't got it yet.
I just picked up this new one. This Frederick Peters. He drew it. The artist is Lou Thing, I guess.
That was a good pronunciation. Say it again.
Well, I'm just doing it phonetically. Lou Thing. So it might be totally wrong, and people say my name in a variety of ways that I'm never mad about. But this guy did a book called Amma. The artist did a book called Amma that came out.
Right.
I think the last one came out 2015, 16, something like that.
I haven't read it, but I've seen it, and I need to.
It's my favorites.
That's awesome. I wanted to kind of ask you about like how you got inspired to write stories, like the current stories that you're writing in this universe. Like, what made this universe? But I don't know how you got inspired to do it. It's so, for me, it seems so different than everything else that I'm reading. And the way your stories flow, they're really not linear. So I just kind of wanted to know, like, how did you put this together, and like what inspired the Wrenchies, and what inspired like Chain Letter, Pop Gun Wars?
Well, I guess starting Pop Gun War, since that was like one of my earlier works, that was inspired mostly by just living in New York at the time, and I feel like it had a lot to do with me being like my early 20s and feeling all this like nostalgia and kind of excitement about the medium of comics, but not being super educated on like what is good to read. Like it was basically just me being frustrated. Like, I would go to a comic book store, and I feel like I did this basically since I was like a teenager, when like Image Comics first hit and all that. Like, I was really excited about comics. Like, I wanted to read them, But every time I go to the comic book store, I felt like I was just like really burnt out on like superhero type stuff. You know, because I was raised reading Marvel comics, and you know, I like Bone and a couple other things that were kind of coming out then. And the night, like this was like the '90s, mid '90s, and I don't know. I go to the comic book store and I was just like, oh man, everything looks kind of the same, which I know is just ignorant because I'm sure there was stuff that, I mean, I know Paul Pope was coming out with THP at the time, and there's a bunch of stuff that was exciting, but I just kind of wanted that. I don't know, like I wanted certain itch scratch that I wasn't getting from going to the comic book store and seeing what was available. So I just, you know, I was like, well, I like being in New York City and I want to do something about the city, but I don't want to just like, I'm going to draw like an autobio comic or something. Like, I would do a lot of drawings in my sketchbook. I would go on, I had a class that I would sit in on even after I graduated called Drawing on Location by John Ruggieri. He's like a teacher at School of Visual Arts. And he really, like opened up my eyes about like looking at architecture and environments. And he didn't really know anything about comics or really care about comics, but he was really good at well, I was in like an illustration program too, so it wasn't like I was studying comics. It was more of just like I had this I guess passion or, you know, fire or whatever to make comics, and I really liked the medium, but I didn't really see it as like a realistic goal because it wasn't like, I didn't really think I had like a shot at just being like the regular artist on Spider-Man or something like that. And I didn't know if I really wanted to do that, but it was like, well, I like drawing. I don't really like doing illustration stuff, you know, like selling, you know, golf balls or whatever, you know,
advertising,
like financial reports kind of thing, you know. It's like, I did a couple of those, like, oh, I'm gonna show a guy jumping from stacks of dollar bills, some business guy with like a graph behind it. And it's like, what am I doing? Like, spending like hours on this thing, you know. But yeah, it was like, I don't know. So I went to the comic store and I was like, oh man, there's nothing like this, you know, that I kind of want to see. So Popcorn just came out of that, you know, me like living in the city and feeling like this, and you know, weird stuff about, you know, like my memories of being a child in a world of like, you know, grown-ups that I just like assumed knew what they were doing, but you know, maybe not giving out the best advice or saying, you know, the most healthy thing for like children. So I don't know, it came out a bunch of stuff like that. The Wrenchies, you know, so much later when I actually started working on that, that was like a culmination of like me doing a story in an issue of Meat House, this anthology that I worked on with a bunch of friends and in New York. And I did a story for like the last issue we did of that. And it was sort of the springboard for this Wrenchies book. And also, it was like when I first moved to Portland, Oregon, I met an agent, like a book agent, like a literary agent. And she really talked me up, or talked me into, I guess, like pitching a book to like, you know, we're going to pitch a book to New York book publishers, and you'll get like a big advance and all this stuff. So that was like my attempt to like come up with like a graphic novel, you know. But I like while I was working at it, I was realizing that I was like, I want to tell a serialized story. Like I want to be publishing this as I'm working on it. And yeah. So it was getting really frustrating because I worked on it for 5 years without really being able to show anyone the artwork from it.
Oh wow.
I mean, I would show people a little bit here and there, but no one really wanted to just like look at the pages. I mean, that was like my estimation anyway. Like run into someone like, what are you working on now? What are you working on now? What are you working on? I'm like, well, I'm still working on the Wrenchies, but I have pages here if you want to see them. I'm like, you know. But during that time, I worked on Prophet. I did a series webcomic that I turned into like pamphlets that Image is going to be putting out actually as a trade called It Will All Hurt. And that was sort of the same world as the Wrenchies, but I started doing it out of frustration of not being able to put everything I wanted to put in the Wrenchies. because I kept thinking like, okay, this is my one shot. I'm gonna do this big book, and it's gonna be great or whatever. So I just want to keep adding all this stuff to it. So I had to be like, okay, wait a second, I'm never gonna get this finished unless I actually stop putting new things in it and just try to tell a cohesive story that hopefully makes sense. It is a little non-linear, like you said, but I feel like everything all works out, and it's yeah. I mean, it's there if you can really zero in and obsess over it, the way
Well,
I did.
I mean, I loved the Wrenchies. I got it as soon as it came out and kind of digested it, and I actually had to read it twice. I remember I read it and then I was like, I gotta read it again, like right after, just because like you said, like the time and space and everything, and I wanted to absorb as much of it as I could, and sometimes I feel a bit stupid when I read books that are less linear, and I'm like, I don't get that. Let me read it again.
Well,
But
how did you feel about Prophet? Because that's kind of the way that I would approach it, where I would. I've only did 2 issues of that series, but I really liked what Brandon and everyone else did with the rest of it. So it was really exciting for me when I get like my copies in the mail. But I would usually read it like every issue like 2 or 3 times, depending on who the artist was working on that particular issue. But yeah, there would be like oh cool, Simon Roy did that, and I'd read it through once and be like, that was awesome. Okay, now I'm gonna go back and start over and see if I can figure out what just happened.
yeah, I know. No, I did feel like that a lot when I was reading Prophet. But at the same time, like for me, the artwork is so distracting that I wasn't paying attention to the story at all. Because I really loved everybody who touched Prophet. Like everybody was so good. And yeah, I just felt like I'd get like I'd get sucked into the artwork, and then I'm like, what did I just read? Because I'd be staring at that and not actually paying attention to the plot. But I mean, after you go over it again, like I could pick up on what was happening for sure. I wish there was more.
Well, with the Wrenchies, what I was specifically trying to do, like I wasn't trying to confuse people. Like my main goal making that comic and any comic I make is I want it to be a page turner. Like I want people to be excited about reading it, or at least like, I mean, I guess it's like why I obsess over the art so much is that I want to lure people in with like, oh, what's going on here? This looks interesting, and then like through that, hopefully you'll get in a rhythm in the way like. I don't know, like watching like a Shakespeare movie or something. Not that I'm anywhere near, obviously.
Are you comparing yourself to
Comparing
Shakespeare?
myself,
This is great.
but just like I like the way like I can watch like a movie or like an adaptation of one of his plays or something like that, and I don't really understand what's happening with what they're saying at first, but I just kind of like let myself go and get into it, and then yeah, it's like I totally understand. After a while, you just kind of get in this rhythm and you don't really think about it. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do with it, but like, I mean, I've given I sent PDFs to a lot of friends and peers and stuff. And it's been like mostly positive, but like if you like, hey, helpful criticism kind of thing, it's usually about that, like something that has to do with like clarity, So that's like what I'm striving for. Like my main goal is clarity and entertainment.
I mean, it
really
really
not trying
feels
to be like highfalutin and make people struggle or anything, but I I also like that. Well, the Wrenchies specifically, though, I wanted it to feel like there was a mystery to it, like in a way, like I don't know, I really like the films of David Lynch. And a lot of his movies, I feel like that. Like there's a lot of things going on here that I don't understand. I don't really understand, but I don't have to understand them to appreciate this. Like I like that I feel like they create this sense of mystery that doesn't frustrate me. It just makes me excited about like what I'm seeing. Well, it's like it seems like more about like a mood or atmosphere or something rather than something literal.
Yeah.
Like, what did it mean when this guy made that hand gesture or something? I was like, I don't know. I don't have to know what that means. Just like it just, you know, was like an interesting, weird thing, you know.
Well, it really
Like,
does
why does
feel
this
like
guy
a
have a?
dream.
What's
Sorry,
that?
the wrenchies, it really, like, to me, it came off like a dream. Like, you know how, like, stuff happens in dreams and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at the first, you know, in the way that it flows. Like, it keeps moving forward without you. Sometimes, you know? And
Cool.
dreams are like that, you know, you're watching
Yeah,
it
totally.
and it's so whimsical, but you know, that doesn't mean you're 100% participating. But because, like you said, the mystery, you are participating. Kind of reminds me of like Terry Gilliam, actually. If
Oh
you
yeah, I'm
watch
a big
Terry
fan of his,
Gilliam, um,
especially his
that's what I
older stuff.
found. What's that?
Well, I'm a big fan of him, especially his older stuff. Like I like
Hmm.
the way like Time Bandits kind of had that sort of dreamlike quality. Um, Brazil, I mean, that's like his best. I think it's like his best movie, it's like his first
Hmm.
movie. But um, yeah, I really dig that about his stuff. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and I think that's probably the one, I guess, uh, consistent thread, or not thread, but consistent like a motif. I don't know how you would say in my work, attitude or something, is that I want my stuff to kind of have that dreamlike quality. You know, not in the sense of like, what the fuck, that dream is so weird, but like I um, I like the weird feelings I get when I think about weird dreams that I've had. And I don't, you know, I don't probably say that in a different way, but like, not like I'm trying to manipulate people or anything, but I like, uh, I don't know, I like establishing an atmosphere. That's like my prime thing. Like, okay, I want this to like Wrenchies. I wanted it to feel kind of like a nightmare, like that this guy is kind of like slowly going, you know, it's like struggle of the cartoonist, the artist person, you know, like dedicating his or herself to this thing, you know, obsessing about it, kind of like driving him nuts, you know. I don't know. That was, but like Popcorn War, I like, you know, dreamlike and the, you know, magical realism, kind of surreal sort of way. But still, you know, hard.
Nice. I was gonna ask you, of course, I don't know if most people have actually read The Omega Unknown and made the connection, you know, like this was a book that you worked on. Because when I talk about you, when I'm like Farel Dalrymple, people immediately bring up Pop Gun Wars. No one ever talks about
That's
Omega.
good.
What?
Oh, I said that's good that
Well, I found it
people
interesting.
bring up
Like,
Popcorn.
I wanted to know what it was, how you felt about like the collaborative process when you worked on that Marvel book, and if it was something you'd ever do again, or was it a nightmare for you?
Um, yeah, certainly not a nightmare at all. It was, I would say, overall, like a pretty positive, good experience.
Okay.
I have a lot of, I guess, like political issues with Marvel Comics days, which I wasn't, weren't as, I didn't think about as much, I guess, when I was doing Mega the Unknown. Like, I don't know, there's part of me that is this, kind of a brat, I guess. Like, I feel like I've worked out my career well enough in this way to where I can kind of I've gotten to pretty much do what I've wanted to do, you know, like creatively.
Mm-hmm.
So working on that at the time, it just seemed like really timely to do something like that. Like I grew up in comics and really liked all the characters, like this like childhood dream, like, oh cool, I get to do a Marvel comics book. That's so exciting. You know, so it was like really, and the writer was actually a fan of his work before I got the gig. he wrote a book called Motherless Brooklyn that when I was visiting Portland the first time, I was visiting Portland. I was getting ready to move out of New York, so I was done with that place. And when I visited New York, buddy, you should read this book, Motherless Brooklyn, or Powell gave me the copy, and we didn't get it. I bought it from Powell. He showed it to me, and I read it while I was visiting here, and it blew me away. The writer's amazing. He's like my favorite writer. So I started reading some of his other books, and I went back to New York, and I was staying in the Ferns to see, just for the weekend, hanging out with him. And I got an email, like checking his old PC email, and it was from the writer, Jonathan Beetham, and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a book for Marvel. You want to draw it?" That was pretty much it,
That's easy.
I guess he was like assuming I'd heard of him before, And I was like, "Hell yeah, I love your work, and yes, that'd be great." And editor on the book, Tom Brevoort, like pretty much just for the most part. Like we mostly dealt with. We had 3 different assistant editors on that project. So I think I worked maybe over like 2 years from actually when I joined it. Yeah, I moved to Oklahoma and we started working on it then. And then I finished it up after I think I finished it in like 2007. And I think the actual collection, the trade, came out to like 2010. So, but it didn't sell very well. So, but I think even prior to that, like while we were working on it, I think Marvel was just like, "Oh, this is a little different than what we thought." So they didn't really promote it that well. Like before the first issue was even done, they had me come up with like a promo image that was featured in like Time magazine, like about that big. And so I had to do I whipped up a little thing for it, like, "Hey, this is a new thing coming out from Marvel." And I remember going on Newsarama and like, "That drawing sucks. This guy sucks." Blah, blah. And I was like, "Well, that's fine."
What?
It's not like the X-Men or whatever.
The first time I saw it, I immediately picked it up. Like when it was serialized, like I have the floppies.
The kind of people that comment on Newsarama, like I wasn't concerned.
Yeah.
About it. You know what I mean? It was like, the books that they would probably like. I probably couldn't do anything like that. Like that's kind of a different thing. So I loved working with Jonathan and the colors on it. We also designed the book. Paul Ornsmeyer's a great dude and really good artist. Felt like the team worked out really well. It was kind of because I didn't, when the book was coming out, no one talked about it. Like it didn't seem to get any kind of promotion or marketing or anything like that, like as it was coming out. So it was really weird to have like a book, like a monthly book coming out and just like, "Hey, does anyone care about this?" After the trade came out, I would get so many people coming up to me. Still, like I still get people all the time. "Hey, I loved Omega the Unknown." Like that'll be the book that they say they like. Like they've never read Popcorn War or the Wrenchies or not even aware that I've done anything else. And it's like, "Oh, I really like that book." So I think like the book's out there and people read it or liked it. I just don't think it sold very well when it first came out because it was just like, it wasn't. I don't know how many books sell all that great at all, but I feel it's like one of those things where like some kind of independent thing radar, and then like maybe later becomes like a cult thing, maybe.
Okay, yeah, no, I can see that for sure. I mean, I got the I only got the hardcover recently. Like I always had the floppies, and I got the hardcover online actually. I think it's a repressing. Like I think it's a reprinting. I mean, it's not the original printing. I don't think the edition that I got. Did it go back to print?
I don't know. No.
No?
I don't know that I'm aware of. In fact, at some point, Marvel remaindered all the copies that they had, and they're, because I don't think they probably have like a certain amount of warehouse space they can devote to dog books, So they
Dog books.
reviewed all their copies for like $1 each.
Oh,
And
really?
I didn't know about it. A retailer told me that. And I was like, well, goddamn, I would have bought cases of that book and sell at shows.
Yeah.
If I had known.
Yeah,
but I have done a thing
dang.
where I bought them off Amazon before, just buy them pretty cheap on Amazon. I bought them from retailers, super discount rate, so I can sell them. So
Interesting.
I don't know. Be around for a while. I don't know if it'll ever get reprinted. Maybe if Marvel's like worried about around the character, they'll like do a new press or something. But it's never been done in like it came out in floppies and in the hardcover.
Yeah.
It's a really nice production. Like I think that's maybe another reason like Marvel wasn't too happy about it. I think they spent a lot of probably over budget on than what their normal trade would cost. But like not really a good return on their costs. So they were just like, well, whatever. I think they just didn't really know what to make of it too. It's like such a weird thing for them to put it out. I mean, the old Omega of the Unknown, Steve Gerber stuff's weird.
Yeah.
Too, in its own way, but it's definitely weird of the time. Like it looks very much of that Marvel era, like the Howard the Duck kind of weird.
Yeah.
This book was just sort of like I feel like it's like, New York literary dude, comic dudes doing a Marvel comic, their take on a Marvel comic that Marvel actually happened to publish.
Well, I think it's great. I was just curious about how it all went about, and now I know. So cool. Thank you for letting me know. So, I wanted to ask you as well. So people, if they want to follow you on Patreon, you still have a Patreon account, right?
Yeah, I actually just started it at the end of last year. I think it's been going 4 or 5 months now.
What's the best way for them to support you?
I mean, that I guess would be it, or just buy my books. That'd be cool.
That too.
I've got a few of them.
You've got a few?
I probably post mostly on Instagram, but then it just like, goes to like my Twitter and all that stuff. The Patreon is still in its early stage, kind of like a progress. So I have to kind of behind on doing some of the rewards and stuff, so I have to figure out a way to streamline it a little bit because I don't want to complain about how hard it is to be a cartoonist, man. But it's like I'm pretty much I don't have like assistant or interns or a partner that helps me or anything like that. So get a regular book out consistently every year, and then also figure out all this other PR kind of stuff. So the same, I don't have kids or anything, or I'm not married, so it's like I don't have that effect, But there's other stuff. I'm gonna stay on top of all this stuff. I guess is what I'm getting at. But
I can help you with that.
Same story for everybody. Oh yeah.
That's my business that I'm starting, right?
I'll take all.
That's why I'm so poor now, is because I'm starting this business and it's taking all my money and time, and that's why I don't get to buy as many comics as I used to. But I used to spend like hundreds of dollars like a month on just comics, so now I spend like maybe $20 every 2 weeks.
Well, if you're doing like comics reviews, you shouldn't have to pay for comics.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Image in different places should be sending them to you.
Yeah, I get a lot for free. I do get a lot for free.
That's cool.
I just interviewed Charles Forsman, and he's sending me his books. What's that?
How'd that interview go?
Really good. Yeah, I was super Chuck. I was super awkward. Because it was so funny because we were both just sleep deprived, so we were both like stumbling on our words, I think, and feeling stunned. So it was maybe not my most smoothest interview. My questions, I was stumbling over my words and stuff, but I just do that when I'm overtired. So anyway, it was good. Anyway.
Cool. You're
But
doing a great job.
oh, thank you, Farrell. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you what conventions you're going to this year that people can catch you at, get some signage and buy some books.
Well, so far I haven't been asked to any this year. So nothing that I'm aware of. Like I'll probably show up at Emerald City, but like have a table there or anything like. I applied for the Artist Alley thing a while back, but late in the game, and yeah, I haven't heard anything from the local show either. I kind of had email them a bunch. The Rose City show, I had to email them last year, and there's like no response until I got Brandon to do it for me.
What?
I guess it was kind of weird because like I don't think they knew Brandon was like in town, but he just had moved in with me, and we were talking like, hey, this Rose City show's coming up, we should try to do that, and it was like advanced, and I hadn't applied for it or anything, so it's like why would they want me there necessarily? But I emailed a couple people at Rose City show and was like, hey, I'd like to go to your show. I'm a local cartoonist. Like, can I have a table there or whatever? And there's like no response. But in the email, it's like, hey, I'm also my roommate's Brandon Graham, so maybe we both could do the show together. And so, like, then he gets an email from them inviting him to the show.
Oh my God.
So I didn't hear anything back from him. I was like, okay, so I emailed him again, nothing. And then finally got Brandon to email someone there, and they're Farrell can just split the table with you if that's okay. So yeah, I was like, oh man, well that was cool. So I did that show last year, but I didn't like apply for it or anything. So I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get an invite either. So I think I might sit that one out unless something happens. But Emerald City, I might go up with Brandon and some people, and I don't know, see if I can do a signing at the image table, like that, I guess. And as far as, those are the only conventions that I would do just because they're sort of close to me, because otherwise, I just noticed over the years, the last few years, I've been doing conventions that I have, like pretty much my whole career. And when I first started doing them, like, I wasn't good at like thinking about, okay, how much is it costing versus how much money am I making at the show, travels, and I'd also like, I was a little more punk rock fan in the sense of, and I didn't care about being in a bed and things like that. I could sleep on someone's floor or whatever and just be, so I keep my costs down a little more. And now I'm like old, I'm like almost 46, and it's like, I am not going to share a hotel room or someone's apartment, that's like 6 dudes, so everyone's like snoring and
yeah.
I got to get, I'm not going to stand behind 10 hours a day. I have to have a place where I can go and rest and, all that stuff.
Yeah, Brandon's snoring is definitely...
Doing all shows, like going, flying like somewhere, like, there was a show I used to do last year in Nashville or something. And I had to coordinate so hard with the dude running the show. He was a real nice guy, but like, it was just kind of a nightmare because it was like, he had me flying, there was like a 4-hour layover, and there wasn't a straight flight. I guess you couldn't give me a straight flight, and I'm like 6'2", so it's like really hard for me to like tiny little piece. It's like, oh, I'm gonna fly 6 hours and then wait in an airport for 4 hours, crowded airport for 4 hours, and then fly somewhere else, and then get there at like midnight, and then wake up and pay, and then go right to work. I have to work 10 hours, stand for 10 hours, then crash, and then get up and do that all again in the plane and do that fucking thing again. I have to fly, stop for 4 hours. So we tried to have him get me another flight, but it was the exact same thing. Where it was I'm stuck in an airport for 3-4 hours, you know. So it was just like, it kind of sucked. But it was like the day of the show. I was like, look, dude, I'm sorry. I tried to work this out with you, but I just can't. I can't go to the show. I can't get on this airplane, you know, and do this. You know, it's just too hard. You know, so it's like I had to cancel that appearance. I feel really bad about it, but like, I just feel like at this point in my life, it's not even like I feel like I deserve to be treated like a celebrity or anything. I just can't physically do this. You know, it's like I feel like if a show wants me at the show, which I don't see why they would, because I don't think my books sell enough to make it worth their while to people in the door. If a show did invited me to a show, like, okay, but make it easy for me to do the show, you know. It's like, don't just like, you know, get me some ticket that you didn't like think about, you know. It's like I've done some shit, like I did a show Thought Bubble in England, and that show was amazing because it was like they just knew how to take care of everyone. It was like, okay, here's simple directions on how to get to the venue. If you're at your table, like they had little I don't know what you call those little cues, you know, so you could form on someone's table without blocking someone else's table. They had volunteers that would like take you else, you know, so like a bunch of little things like that. And it's just like, oh man, that makes this so much easier to do this, you know. And then I can just like have an experience where I'm like interacting with people that, you know, might like my work, or I can introduce my work to them without all the stress of like all this other, you know, like, how am I gonna do this shit, you know? You know, even like going to a show like SPX, which is an amazing show, it's like it's so cost prohibitive for me, you know. It's like getting the hotel room and like flying out to DC, and then all the little, you know, taking the train and all that stuff. It's just like, oh man, I'm not going to do this. Made the decision. I was like, I'm not going to do it anymore unless like a show actually offers to put me up or something. You know, I'm not going to do a show. Not a show. So
right. Well, yeah, and I
think
can't blame you.
That, but I'm just like,
I can't blame you for not wanting to listen to a bunch of men snoring.
Yeah. Gold City, like a few years back. Like, yeah, one of the people I was staying with had like got really drunk and like flung like cheese sauce everywhere. Yeah, I was like, man, I think I was like, early 40. I was like 40 or 41 or something at that point. I was like, what am I doing in my life? Like, in this situation again, you know?
The cheese sauce.
You know, yeah. Well, I'm not like, it's like it's like reading a Simon Hanselman comic or something. I felt like the owl character, you know. It was just like, you guys, come on, we gotta keep this place nice. Like, putting holes in the wall, like, stop it. You know, it's like, I don't want to be this guy. You know, it's like, yeah. But you know, I'm saying like,
the
I don't have
buzzkill.
like a head for business. So it's like me doing all this work to like, okay, I got a hotel for next year for these shows. I gotta do this. It's like I want to make a comic. You know, like even if it's just doing a comic and putting it on the web and then not worrying about it anymore. You know, something like that. Like I would rather be doing that than like all this other stuff that everyone says, oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. You know.
That's why you just need to hire me. That's what my business is.
Selling T-shirts and vinyl pens, you know.
Yeah. Just hire me. It'll be fine.
I'm not quite in the position to hire anybody. It's like, well, I don't have a instance or anything. Like, I don't want to just get some like, you know, intern. Like, here's the bed that I sleep in.
You should get the
and, you know, here's the table that I work at. You know.
Seinfeld intern. When Kramer gets the bunch of interns, you can get them and put them in a drawer. You don't remember that episode of Seinfeld? Kramer gets a bunch of interns, and he puts beds in drawers in a great big bureau, and they're all stacked up. His interns are sleeping on top of each other in these drawers. It's an episode.
So the intern stayed with him, like slept.
Yeah. He had them in his apartment.
I don't. Well, even like having like an intern just come in for like a couple of hours would feel kind of strange to me. Not that I would be opposed to into my home, but it's just like, I don't know, I don't know what I would tell, someone like, okay, just sit there while I answer this email and, help me stay focused on doing this. Like,
Yeah, well.
Like, I guess I could give someone the pages to flat, maybe, but they wouldn't need to be, like, I would have to pay someone to do that, like $10 a page or something. But part of me too is I feel like it's sort of like cheating to do that. Like,
why?
So much of like my identity is like wrapped up in me having complete control of everything that I do, and so it's like, me like paying someone to like flat my comics. I feel like, yeah, you should just work on your own comics. Just do your own stuff. I'll just do this. Like,
I'll do this. You go do you. Wow. Lots of people hire help for stuff like that so that they can spend more time drawing and less time doing all that other crap, right?
Yeah, but I know a lot of people that are comic book artists just end up writing for everybody, a lot.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
true.
like a model for like the cartoonist and the frustrated auteur who's like, oh, I got all these ideas, and put them out there and complete it. But there's like, wow, it's nearly impossible to make a living, like at least not even to be comfortable, but to like make a living, to be able to like pay your taxes and be a contributing member of society. It's immensely difficult to do that doing your own comics. And I mean doing your own comics in the sense of like the way that like Mobius makes his own comics, or like Paul Pope makes his own comics, or and I know like maybe Paul Pope's had an assistant. I've never heard of him having an assistant, but maybe he has. I don't know. I don't think
he has publicists and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. I think Atomo only had two or three assistants, like where I work here at even. But I had a whole different system too, like doing manga for like almost like versus the American style of doing it. So I feel like I'm kind of a liar in the sense that I'm such a control freak. Like, I don't know, Jeff's assistants working with Bone, so I know he kind of ruined his hand. Like while working on that, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a pride. Really hard for me to give up control. Put in someone else's hands and go, okay, that's fine. Like, even when I have people color my stuff, like I did a story for friend's comic, Carol's Ring, I think is what he pronounced it. And he was having a letter do the whole book and a bunch of different on it. So I was just, okay, I'll pencil and ink my story and have someone else color and letter it and stuff. And the colors did a fine job on it, but it was like really hard for me to look at. It's like, oh man, we would have done that completely different. I'm like, why didn't I just color it myself? Like, oh, I should have done it myself. Just because it didn't look like I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like with comics, there's so much that can change from the lettering and the coloring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like most comics, I look at them and it's like, wow, they did this. This is obviously an assembly line product. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we had a writer and an artist work on it, but like, no matter how good that artist is, no matter how good that writer is, the lettering was done on a computer, and I can tell it looks just like 20 other comic books lettering. It looks just like 100 other types of coloring that are done in other comics.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like the thumbprint of the person that made it. It doesn't look like. It just looks like this generic. To me, it just makes it devalues the story by, and I'm not, I sound like I'm being snobby, like against like every comic book that's pretty much created, but it's just, it seems like a rare thing when that style transcends the process. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah.
I don't see that very often where I can look at it. Like I really like the it's an Image book, Jupiter's Legacy, the Mark Millar, or
Yeah,
Miller,
Frank Quietly.
and Frank Quietly. But I mean, that's mostly because I'm like a sucker for anything Frank Quietly draws. But you know, it's like
I'm bad.
he somehow kind of can pull it off. Like the colors was really good. I think Go. Is that the colors on that?
I can't remember. I just finished reading volume 2 the other day, and I don't remember who the colorist was at all.
But like I felt like that looked. I don't know if it's just because his art style is so open and clean, or I'm just kind of used to seeing him work in that, you know, that pool or whatever. That works specifically. I feel like okay, I'm totally into this thing, and I'm not thinking about it. I really like the Seven to Eternity book that Remender and Jomo Pena do.
It's very pretty. Very
that's
pretty.
I was gonna say primarily it's like Jerome's art. So I feel like a lot of times the strength of the artist is so. Not that Rick's writing bad, he's great. Like I love his stuff. But something about like the we're having a writer, an artist, a letterer, a colorist. It generally, not always, but generally, it just bums me out. Like when I look at something, I'm like, oh man.
It does tend to dilute things. Like it becomes diluted. You know what I mean? Like the story and the tensions, like it's all very diluted because you've only got little bits and pieces of different people in it, right?
Yeah. And I understand too, like something like that Farrell's Rainbow, where it was like the author, the writer, editor person probably wants there to be some sort of consistency throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense that like we're gonna have the same letter do all the thing and the same colors through all the stories. You know, I think Brandon colored his own stuff. I mean, there's people that colored their own stuff. So like I understand the idea behind that, but usually when I see that, it's like, oh, okay, someone's using this font, and if the artist had just lettered their own stuff, that would make such a big difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, even if it wasn't that great of lettering, it's still like that. I can tell it fits that style, the style that they're drawing in. Like to me, it's like that's part of the art. Like that's not a separate thing from the art. You know,
yeah.
It all has to do with each other. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm doing while I'm drawing, I'm lettering while I'm drawing and being like, the way this guy's saying this, like I want to feel like this. And so while I'm lettering, I will make the letters feel like that. You know, it's like this organic process that I feel like if I just had some letter that I had slap on a bunch of things at the end, like you know, I would probably still be going in there and being like, hey, I noticed when you lettered this, you made it like this, and looking at it now, like if you do that classic art director thing of like, oh, I didn't know I wanted that, but now that I see the way you did it, I can change it, do this, you know, so it's like I don't want to do that to somebody, you know, I would never even want, I wouldn't even. It's like, don't letter my stuff. I'll letter it myself.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, because unfortunately you don't see enough people hand lettering anymore, and it's one of the things that has always irked me. Like there's this really great artist I discovered on Instagram, and she has a webcomic, and I think her name's Jamie Pamprick or something, but she uses this terrible font, and I actually wrote and commented, I'm like, you know, your stuff's so good, but could you not use that font? And she was kind of upset at me for saying that, and she was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, it's so mechanical and it really detracts from the artwork.
And I was like, have you ever considered, lettering it by hand? And she was like, no, absolutely not. like don't get me to do extra work. Like, I'm drawing this thing. I do not want to letter this by hand.
That's like the one thing with like computer coloring versus hand coloring. I don't feel like it is as much, but the lettering is significantly faster to do it on it.
Oh,
just type it out. I mean, it's like so easy. But it looks like it's easy. That's a problem. It never looks like someone put effort into it. I mean, not never. Sorry, I don't use like an extreme. There are exceptions, but even like like my favorite letterer growing up, and for years as an adult was this guy John Workman. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
Stream guy, he did all the Silence and Thors.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like his lettering, it was so distinctive compared to like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that since he started doing it on the computer, it totally lacks that. Not totally lacks. I mean, it's still good. He's a competent letterer, but there was something about his hand letters that like, it was just like, oh, cool. This is my favorite. I actually was good on this. I like this letterer. Like even that old X-Men guy, Tom Wachowski, I remember really being into his lettering too when it was done by hand. I don't know if that guy's still working now or what, but there was some kind of shift that happened where like everyone just did computer lettering. Some people do it better than others, as far as like placement and the structure of it, design, page design, but I don't know. It's weird too to think about doing like I mean, I've done like I said, I've done the Omega book. I wish I lettered myself, but even with that, I had to convince Marvel basically to let me letter it. They asked me 3 different times like, what letterer I wanted for it. I'm the letterer. I'm gonna letter. But like it is part of the penciler, inker, the artist person in the assembly line process to not draw the word balloons in, but at least know where they're going to be in the panel.
Right.
Like a lot of times it's really hard for me to draw a comic panel, and if I don't actually physically draw a word balloon in there, to like remember like, oh, I have to leave enough space for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like compositionally, my brain just doesn't want to do it. I'll just naturally start drawing. Like, okay, I'm gonna fill the whole panel up in a way that I find aesthetically pleasing. I'm like, oh no, there's gonna be a letter that's gonna slap a word balloon right over this guy's face now, because I didn't have any room to do it. So I mean, I guess that's like its own sort of skill. When becoming, learning it's like a learning curve. And like, okay, I'm learning how to draw comics. Like, oh, I have to remember. Look at the script. Okay, I'm leaving this much open space for all these, different balloons that are going to be on here, or bubbles, or whatever the hell they're called.
There was something I was talking to this summer with Gearhart. I interviewed him because he came here actually, and we were talking. I think it was Gearhart was telling me this story. He was talking about how like you spend all this time detailing putting little details into your artwork, and then somebody slaps. You didn't realize they're going to slap that bubble right over this part that you spent all of this time and energy on. And it's like, that's when you have to kind of, pull back and realize you don't have to draw everything. Not everything has to be in there. But that was a huge learning curve in and of itself. So I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, yeah, I never really thought of that. Because like when I draw comics, which are crap, but when I draw them, I'm always putting my little balloon in there so that I have to draw less. Because I'm like, oh, let's make this balloon extra big, because I can't draw that thing.
The problem is that when you're like obsessive, like I am, where it's like I don't know, I like drawing a lot, and I get lost in my drawing too much, I think sometimes. So yeah, if I don't do that, if I don't put the word balloon on there myself, like I'll just keep drawing, without even thinking about it. And it's just like, oh shit, I don't need to add all the detail in this background, so I just cover it up. That's I think one of the reasons that quietly works works so well in that style because he's really good at like pulling really far back and having like a lot of space in his panels. He can do little detail, and he does selectively. But a lot of his work, you look at it, or I look at it, and I'm like kind of amazed at how much he gets away with just leaving big areas just completely blank. So it's like, oh yeah, you put the word balloon in a way that works well with the design without having to like, oh, I'm covering up this guy's, the action that's happening here. It's not distracting or anything. It's just like, yeah, it's really like, I don't know if like cinematic's the right word, but it's got this, I don't know, openness, but it's, yeah, almost like, like Lawrence of Arabia or some like big CinemaScope type movie quality to it, where so the figures aren't always taking up the whole panel. They might be just like this tiny little bunch of little dudes drawn in the corner, and just like big auditorium. It's just like,
Yeah, one that sticks out. Yeah, one that sticks out the most by quietly like that's fairly recent that looks exactly the way you're describing is that little short Minute Miracle Man that he did with Grant Morrison a couple years ago, and that little short is very much that expansive cinematic like sweeping kind of almost blank landscapes. But as you're reading the comic, it does feel like your camera just going over this big landscapes. But yeah, that's one of Quietly's. I can never say his name right. I don't know why I'm incapable of pronouncing Frank's name. But,
Quietly.
Yeah, I say it wrong every time. I say it like Quietly.
Well, it's not his real name anyway. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love that guy. I emailed him and I can never get a response from him. Mark was.
Yeah, I've never met him. Anything.
He's so good, but
he's amazing.
Yeah,
and he's got my favorite accent.
Does he?
Favorite speaking accent. Yeah. He's Scottish, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I love the way those guys talk.
Him and Mark go back, right? So Mark Millar, I mean.
Right.
They're both Scottish.
Stuff. I mean, other than like when Flex Mentallo came out, and those. I remember he did a lot of work for those big book that DC used to put out, like Vertigo, like Heidi McDonald did all these like big books of conspiracy.
Oh.
Whatever. He would do like strips and notes, and I was like, who is this dude? What this looks so different than everything else in here. I get the little, delicate.
It looks better.
Well, I mean, it's subjective, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would say he's arguably like, if not the best, one of the best dudes working in the mainstream comic world.
For sure, yeah.
But his stuff looks unique still. Like I don't see a lot of. I mean, there's like one or two guys kind of sort of aping his style a little bit, but for the most part, I can just that's Frank Quietly. There you go.
Oh yeah, you can identify any of his work, like you just know it's him. His covers are still like my favorite covers. I think the American Virgin, I think it was called, that was on Vertigo years ago. I love that cover with the mouth and the tongue and the guys on the. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
What book was it for?
American Virgin, I think it's called.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that cover? It was so good.
It sounds familiar. Yeah, I didn't read that. Is that Becky Cloonan drew that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should read that.
It's good. It's really good. I got a copy used a while back and was like,
Wait, who was the writer? Who was the writer on that?
Oh, Jesus.
I
don't remember. What?
It wasn't Brian Wood, was it?
I don't think so. Ew.
Okay. Well, she's worked with him a bunch, so.
And now I'm gonna look it up because now it's bothering me. I don't like Brian Wood, and I try to avoid him because of all the crap.
Sure, yeah.
No, it was Steven Seagal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like this stuff. Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't feel like Brian Wood. I was like, who the hell wrote that? I couldn't remember. It's like my brain, it's too rattled with comics. Like I get people mixed up, especially if I haven't met them or talked to them before. I get creators mixed up a lot in my head. Well, writers mostly, artists not so much. But artists will always stick out better to me, but
Sure, 'cause you got like a visual reference for it. You know?
exactly, yeah, and they always kind of,
That's it.
yeah, for sure. Well, I don't want to eat up much of your time. I just realized we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, so I feel like I'm eating up all your time, and I know you're a very, very busy dude. And it's the middle of the day for you, right?
Yeah, something like that. Still light outside, kind of.
God, you're lucky. It's cold. Do you know how much snow we have? It's disgusting.
I heard it's brutal on the East Coast this year.
It's not good. Oh, I
Yeah.
do want to ask you what that book is behind you. That's so colorful. No, that open one, yeah. Yeah, it's just got my attention.
Our sack, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Geez, where did you get that copy?
It's Spanish. It's in Spanish.
Okay.
Norma editorial. But it's not. So far, I think the only book that has come out in English in the last 10 years or something is
World of Adina.
Yeah, the Dark Horse. They're doing all his stuff, and I think they're doing an Art of Adina book next, and then the Inside Mobius, maybe.
Yeah.
They're starting to do that, which has never been published in English.
Inside Mobius comes out in a month or two, but the Art of Adina is already out, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this art deck was great. It's like I think he did it later in his life.
Yeah.
You know, like return to that character, you know, from heavy metal. Yeah, I've never read it. I can't speak Spanish, you know, so deficit on my part, I know, but like I would really like. I'm excited when that'll get released. I don't know if Dark is gonna make it big like that. But I mean, stuff's just great to look at, even if you can't read it. You know,
yeah, I think I might have a digital copy. I can send you. If I know digital's not as fun.
Oh yeah, that might be fun. I could compare. I could read it. You know, the words there. And actually read the story.
Yeah, as I think I got a whole bunch of old Mobius stuff from who the hell sent it to me? Oh, what's fuck's sakes, why is my brain just not functioning properly? Who the hell gave me that? You know, he's doing Punisher right now, Platoon. Goran Parlov. He sent me all this stuff. He's amazing. He sent me all this Mobius a couple years back. All this stuff that's out of print, and he was like, and it was stuff that I'd never read because it's been out of print forever, right? And he was like, no, if you don't have this, if you haven't read it, then like he's basically like, then you're stupid. You know? He'd never say it like that. He's too nice, but you know that's kind of what he meant. He was like, "No, you have to read this stuff now." So I'm sending it to you.
Oh, cool.
But I'll look and see if I have Arzak because I think he sent it to me, and it should be. I'm pretty sure it's in English. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some older Arzak stuff. I actually found a first edition, like heavy metal produced the first Arzak book.
Yeah.
I found that at a thrift store here in town. Or actually, my friend found it for like $1 or something like that.
That's awesome.
It was a little beat up, but I mean, it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good score. It's probably like the best thrift store score I've ever done. Like, who would get rid of this? It's crazy. You know, it must have been like, you know, that thing where it's like someone had a bunch in their attic, and you know, or a storage unit they lost, or they passed away.
Somebody died. Yeah, someone died. I found some really great stuff. I actually got the 2 floppies Mobius Silver Surfer.
Nice.
I got those 2, and it was a random used, like I think they were $5 or something.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And they're like in like perfect condition. So
I think I have a few different editions of those.
Yeah.
There's a great essay in the back of that Mobius talks about lettering being part of the artwork, and that every cartoonist should letter his own work or deserve their own work.
I don't remember reading that. Maybe it's in Is it in the hardcover edition? Maybe. I have the hardcover edition.
No,
Now
it's
I
in
have to
like
go look.
it was in the original
Oh, the
Marvel one, I
floppy.
think.
Ah.
You know, the trade, because it was like 2 issues, I think.
Oh, the trade. Okay.
And
Yeah,
then
it
they
was
put
2 issues.
like a trade out. And then I think it got republished a couple more times even by Marvel.
Yeah.
The last time I saw them publish it, it was like even like a floppy, but it was just like a really thick floppy.
Oh, okay.
And
No,
I think I
haven't seen
bought
that
that one
one.
too. But yeah, that's where I read that. Where he just writes about his process, as you Canadians say process. I started saying process because I hang out with so many like Rob McConnell and people like that. So anyway, sorry, I mean to be fancy. But he talked a lot about like how he got that job and like working with Stan Lee and like his frustrations, I guess, at like not knowing just like I guess trying to do like a Marvel comic, basically. We're just like, oh, I really like the subject matter, but it's harder than doing my own stuff. Like working with a writer, any writer, I think. It's a different thing, and for like a genius like that guy, I think that I could see that being difficult. Even though he worked with writers, I mean, Blueberry, he didn't write any of Blueberry stuff, as far as I know.
I have Blueberry, but I don't have all of it. So I don't know.
So there's a lot, and that stuff too. I don't think all that's been published in English ever.
Mine's in English.
Well, I mean, I think there was a couple books. He did a couple Blueberry books, kind of during the time when his now widow, then wife, was not letting any of the stuff be published in English. So there's like a good, I don't know how many years it was, but there's a long time where not just stuff was out of print, but like the new stuff that he was doing in France wasn't coming out in America.
God,
but I have like a couple of Blueberry books too, like the ones that like Epic Comics did back in the day. But as far as I know, like any of the newer ones, I don't think
here's one.
They ever published in English.
These ones. I have 5 of these. But this is by Graffiti Designs, which like
I got a couple of those.
Who the hell was that? Like I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, they were like they did like a t-shirt. I think primarily like t-shirt stuff, but they did books. They published books too. They might still be around. I don't know. I forgot the guy's name. The head of that company. I've met him before. Like at shows back in like San Diego Comic-Con, like that. And he would do have like a big party at one of the bars, before it got that show got so nuts. Like he might still do it. I don't know. I've been following Graffiti's trajectory, but the guy's name, I'm blanking on the guy's name. They were like a legit company.
But mine's number 947 of 1500. It's signed.
There you go.
So I was really happy about it when I got them. I can't remember. I bought these years ago, but I've not seen them since. I haven't even seen them on eBay.
I feel like that was probably the last stuff that got translated.
Probably.
The last of his work that was made available to English speakers.
Yeah, we kind of get shafted. But it's just like I read a lot of manga. Do you read manga at all?
A little bit. I really like Tai Matsumoto. It's probably my favorite.
What's he written?
Cartoonist, period. What's that?
What's he? Matsumoto? What did he write?
Matsumoto? He did that black and white Tecton Concrete.
What is it?
Have you heard of Tecton Concrete? They made a movie of it, but it was a book he did called Black and White. He's done tons of other stuff. But the last series he did was called Sunny, which is all about like Viz put them out in these gorgeous hardcover editions. And there's 6 of them, I think.
Oh.
6 volumes. And it's like these kids in an orphanage, kind of like an orphanage home place or a foster home, I guess. And his work's amazing. He did another book called Number Five, which is I think they visited like the first two volumes of it, but I don't think it sold very well, and it was like too expensive, so they just stopped putting it out. But like, there's like French bit and different, but yeah, there's English and I don't have. I've never read the whole thing of that, but it's probably my favorite stuff. It's Number Five. He's done a bunch of books. He did a book called Ping Pong that got turned into a movie, like a live action movie, and I think more recently an anime version of that.
Yeah. Ping Pong, I know. Yes, I do know that one.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he did a book called Go-Go Monsters. Fantastic. I love anything that guy does, pretty much. Like,
cool. Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. I'm gonna have to check more of his stuff out then, because I haven't read any.
Yeah, so I don't read a lot of manga, but there's certain guys that I'll get anything that like, and I feel like it's more the stuff that is influenced, perhaps kind of like a Euro influence, like
right.
Super hardcore manga language is it's a little difficult for me. So if it's someone like Urasawa or like Terada, or he doesn't really do a lot of manga. It's more of an illustrator, I guess. But like guys like that, where it's like I feel like it's not just super insular, but there's like a sort of more of a broad appeal to their work. Or there's like really good illustrators like a Tomo, something like that, where it's like it's more about like telling this sort of universal story rather than like, oh, I have spit bubbles coming out of this person's mouth in their sleep. So, things like that. Or the really big, the goofy, like big eyed kind of like that. Kind of stuff's like stuff that's like too cute. I have a hard time when it's like I feel like it's trying to be cute.
Well, that's a style of manga though.
Yeah,
and it appeals to a specific audience, right? But yeah, like you're right, like Urasawa, like he's drawing manga. It's still stylized manga, but it's got a real more realistic quality to it. Do you know what I mean?
Sophisticated, yeah. There's like a maturity or something. I know it's subjective, but I feel like there is like an intelligence behind it that I respond to more so than a lot of the stuff that I saw growing up.
Yeah.
I think that might have a lot to do with it too, like the nostalgia aspect, and like that's like John Buscema was like one of my favorite artists. Like I grew up reading Marvel comics. I didn't grow up reading manga. Like Brandon grew up reading manga, so he likes a lot of that stuff.
Right.
To me, it's like, why didn't I look at that when I was a little kid? So looking at it now, it's kind of weird. Where someone's like a good storyteller, illustrator, I felt like it kind of becomes transcendent of like any kind of genre, medium, or anything like that. Where it's just like, oh, okay, I'm on board with this person's doing here. Like kind of sucked into their little world they're creating.
Right. Cool. Well, I'll let you go. I'm eating up your time, and I know you've got work to do. But what's that?
I said, stop eating up my time.
I know, I'm horrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to do this interview so many times, because I think 2 times we tried, I was sick. I believe. Anyway, I remember it was hard. Anyway.
Well, I accept your apology. Okay. You're forgiven.
Thank you.
No, I'm glad we got to do it. This is great.
Sweet.
Thank you for taking the time out to do this too.
Yes, thank you for giving me some of your time to eat.
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to put this up in a few days, and I'll tag you across social media and put all your links and stuff in the description of the video so that everyone can go and follow you on all of the medias.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Bye.